everyone, and welcome to the Great Outdoors. No, it's the Fed Flash Face-Off. And I am Gary Ryan, of course, the host of the Fed League Flash. Thank you so much for joining me and for tuning in to our weekly show, which, of course, is kind of a long-form video broken down into segments. Always remember, you don't have time to watch an hour 10, however long this is going to be video. All you have to do is, let's see, on your side, it's right here. It says more right below the screen. Just click on more, and then you can get all the timestamps for the different segments. If you want to go right to a particular segment, just click on the blue timestamp. You go right there. I appreciate any part of this video that you can join me for. Thank you so much. All right, so we got a lot coming into this show. It's a little shorter, a little more condensed, refined than the previous episodes. I'm still working on this, still kind of perfecting the craft. All right, we've got Flash Chat this week, and the subject that we're going to be talking about is the state of the Fed from a somewhat alternative viewpoint. It's going to include some what ifs. It's also going to include a lot of this is the way things are. So a lot of interesting things. I hope you'll tune in for that. We're going to talk about the matchup of the week. We're going to have, instead of doing a long segment for previews, we're going to have kind of a snapshot segment where we're going to look at briefly each of the matchups coming up this upcoming week, but we are going to expound a little bit longer on the matchup of the week, which, teaser, it's the PD Ice Cats and the Twin City Thunderbirds fighting for that final playoff spot in the Continental Division. All right, we'll have a mailbag segment. We haven't had that in a couple times, so we'll bring that back. We'll take a really quick look at the standings and where things are shaping up with playoff races as of right now. And of course, news and notes, because there's always stuff going on. Even during the summer, there's stuff going on. So sit back, relax, enjoy, have a cup of coffee, whatever you want to do. Again, just thank you for tuning in. Let's get on with the show.
What
did he say?
Welcome to this week's Flash Chat. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the state of the FPHL, somewhat of an alternative look. And we'll kind of work through that as we go through here. First of all, I want to announce, I probably could have put this on the news and notes segment, but I thought, while I'm thinking of it, I'll put it here. Attendance. Of course, we're all thinking, yeah, this is the season we break the 1 million fan mark. It definitely looks like that is going to happen because I just went through the numbers. Now, as I'm recording this, this is Sunday afternoon before the Athens Rock Lobsters and Monroe Moccasins played. Through today, which is March 28th, the total fan attendance to this point is 981,282. Meaning, it looks like, yeah, 1 million is pretty much a lock. We will probably get that this upcoming weekend, as we have a full slate of games going on across the league. By the time we get to when I'm releasing this, Athens and Monroe will have played twice. I would assume that that's probably going to be about another 7,000, conservatively, I'm saying. So that brings us to 988,000, meaning we only need 12,000 total for 15 games. Yeah, that's happening. The other good number in attendance, and I just want to give a shout out to the people of Columbus, supporting the River Dragons. This will be the first time that the River Dragons officially cross the 100,000 fan mark. Where is it? I had marked. I had through 26 dates, they have 96,712 fans through the gates. So that means for the last 2 dates, they need 3,300. That's happening. That should happen in one night. So congratulations to Columbus. You've gotten oh so close, like 3 times before, like 99,000 and 98,000. And this year you're joining the 100,000 fan club. I guess. It's not really a club, but if there were, there'd be 6 members. There's going to be 6 teams this year that cross that threshold. And so that's wonderful news. 6 of the 8 teams that were capable of drawing 100,000 fans, 9 teams. 6 of the 9 will have accomplished that feat. And so that is great. Great benchmark for growth for the league. Yeah, we have growing pains. We're always going to have growing pains, but wanted to start off with something really positive with that. All right. Now to go into the more alternative look, I wanted to talk at what we have right now in way of the teams in the league. All right. And that includes the announced teams that have already been, officially welcomed as part of the Fed and will be playing in the 2026 to 27 season. All right, so if we go through the Empire League with what we have right now, we have Binghamton, Port Huron, Blue Ridge Bobcats, we have Topeka, we have Danbury, Watertown, and Indiana. In addition, we also have the Minnesota Northern Lights. That's already been confirmed. Now, if you go to the Continental Division, you have Athens, Monroe, Columbus, PD, Twin City, Baton Rouge, Biloxi, and just announced this last week, Mid-South, Mississippi or Memphis or whatever you want to call them. But they're going to be called Mid-South something. All right, so that gives us 8 in each division for a total of 16. But wait, not so fast. All right. As far as future expansion, before we go any further, just to mention potential future expansion, my understanding is that there is probably not going to be any more teams joining the league for this upcoming season. Any other expansion possibilities which are being explored would be in the 2027 to 28 season. Those markets include, amongst some that maybe I'm unaware of, the market in New Jersey we talked about. It's just not going to be feasible to do it for next year, but it is still very realistic possibility for 27, 28. Chicago, where the old Chicago Steel of the USHL played. That arena is looking for a tenant. So that is one place that's being explored. Madison, Wisconsin is being explored. A couple of different arenas in that general area. And then we have Grand Island in Nebraska, which that looks like it's pretty much set. It's about 90% set that we're going to have Grand Island in for the 2027-28 season, not this upcoming season. But there is some renovation that needs to be done to the facility. And right now, the immediate obstacle is to have state grant money, which is set aside and ready to be given to renovations for the arena there in Grand Island to make its way there. So repairs and renovations can be done, which would probably happen over this summer and fall. And then that would, leave the facility ready for the following year. And that's a great rival regionally for Topeka. All right, so yes, there is still a westward move, but we haven't forsaken the Northeast. Okay, as we look into next year, one of the reasons why we are probably not going to see any more teams come in is because of the need to start working on next year's schedule. The league does not want the headache of mathematically figuring out and chronologically figuring out how to put together a schedule with an odd number of teams. So next year, we're going to have 14 or 16. All right. A lot of that scheduling is done by the geographical pods, which we've talked about in previous episodes of the Fed League Flash. You can go back, kind of search your way back to last summer. I believe it was early June that I talked about creating a matrix and how things are put together by geographical pods to help with travel costs and whatnot. All right, but yeah, it's going to be an even number of teams. We're going to have 14 or 16. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Gary, you just said just a little bit ago, we have 16. So where are you getting the 14 from? Well, we have two markets that have not done well, and there have been problems with getting reestablished for next year. The first is Biloxi. Okay, just to put everything down into short story form here for Biloxi. When the lease was signed for this current season that we are in, the Mississippi Coast Coliseum had a stipulation with the Breakers that they need to average 3,000 fans. Okay, that hasn't even come close to getting touched. I don't think, if memory serves correctly, they have not even drawn 3,000 fans for a single game this year. So very, very unlikely that Biloxi is coming back. Now, is it an impossibility? No, it is not an impossibility. It is not 100% set in stone that Biloxi is not going to be around next year. However, the odds are very high that they won't. Now, I do have it on very, very good authority that there are members of the FPHL, the executive board, and some associates that are trying to work on, as it was phrased to me, saving the market. All right. That also goes for Baton Rouge. Now, to put Baton Rouge in short story form, the team, the Zydeco, they want to be there. All right. They want to continue. The arena has not been very compliant in negotiations, which have extended almost this entire hockey season, this entire year, with a more favorable lease deal. As I mentioned, and I used these words exactly in last week's episode, the deal that Barry Soskin, the previous owner of the Baton Rouge Zydeco, struck with the Raising Cane's River Center sucked. All right. It bled the Zydeco dry, and is bleeding the Zydeco dry. So they would like some concessions. They're not asking for a ton of stuff. They're just asking for a little bit more in revenue sharing, a little less constrictions on receiving part of concessions monies, for example, better arena availability, things of that nature. So far, the RCRC has not been compliant in negotiating that in good faith. So negotiations never shut off. They've been ongoing since late September. And neither party has gotten anywhere. We're exactly where we are now, or pretty much exactly where we are now as we were back in September. So Baton Rouge coming back, that's an iffy situation. I'd say the odds are better for Baton Rouge than it is for Biloxi. But right now, the league's position is we are trying to save hockey in the Deep South. We are trying to save Biloxi. We are trying to save Baton Rouge. All right, those are the words that are being used. All right, so let's assume the worst. All right, let's assume Biloxi is not coming back. Baton Rouge is not coming back. All right, this is an assumption. Please don't jump to conclusions. I'm just trying to give you a rounded picture of everything going on behind the scenes. All right, if those two teams do not come back, we now have 14 teams, including Minnesota and Mid-South. Now, because two Southern teams are out of the mix in this scenario, you would need to move somebody over there. The natural and logical solution is move Blue Ridge back down into the Continental Division from the Empire. Now, where does Motor City figure in with this? All right, and I talked a little bit about this last week as well. All right, the wording I'm hearing from members of the Board of Governors and other people inside the league is they do not expect Motor City to come in this next year. Whether that means that the organization just files for dormancy for another year and hopes for the best for the following year, or if perhaps Motor City just isn't going to pan out, that remains to be seen. But Motor City is not coming in unless we have an odd number of teams. In this whole scenario that I just outlined, that would pretty much mean, well, Biloxi's out, but Baton Rouge got saved. All right, now we have 15 teams. We've got to balance this out. All right, let's bring in Motor City. All right, Motor City, the arena that they're looking at, it's serviceable. It's not ideal. It's kind of the situation we have in Indiana. All right, it's serviceable, but not ideal. Indiana needs to get focused and busy with making sure that new arena, that proposed arena, seating 2,500 people, gets built. But that's another story for another time. All right, so as we look at things right now, 10 teams are very, very healthy, doing fine. Binghamton, Port Huron, Blue Ridge, Topeka, Danbury, Athens, Monroe, Columbus, PD, Twin City. All right. Not saying that each team is making gobs of money. I'm just saying they're doing okay. They're stable. All right. We have questionable statuses for Baton Rouge, Biloxi, Watertown. Long-term, Indiana. I think Indiana is fine for this next year. I don't see any reason why Indiana would not return for next season. But there's a lot of things to work out. So that's kind of like where we are with the haves and the have-nots. All right, Watertown, they've been hemorrhaging money. The phrase being used with Watertown amongst people on the inside is, we're not sure if they're going to be there long term. We don't know how much longer Watertown is going to be able to continue to have FPHL hockey. All right. So there's no deadline, no timeline as far as, if the end is near, when is it? We don't know. But I wanted to kind of specify that. All right. In Watertown, new ownership is necessary. They have to have new ownership. They need to have people in place that know how to manage and operate a business and keep things afloat and market the team and help it to grow, help its influence in the community to grow. They had that when Andreas Johansson owned the team for the 2021 to 2022 season. All right, they broke even. Since then, they've been losing money. And some of the reports I heard from this year as far as what the figures might be, as far as how much money they've lost, are staggering. All right, so I don't know what's going to happen there. Indiana needs improvement with their housing situation to attract players. All right, they need to become more competitive. They need to bring better talent in. And part of that is they need a better housing situation. And they need movement in this whole process of getting the new arena constructed. It has to happen, and it has to happen pretty much now. We have to start taking actual steps now to get that arena built. It needs to be ready by September of 2028. All right, so I've outlined a lot of scenarios. I've given you a lot of what ifs and maybes and possiblies. All right. To wrap things up, what are the odds of teams coming in? Motor City, It's really a toss-up. It depends on other markets. Biloxi, it's an extreme long shot. Not impossible, but an extreme long shot. Baton Rouge, the best answer I can give you is maybe. So there we go. And that's just the reality of the situation. Okay. So there we go. To wrap this segment up as far as the state of the league, and with the teams coming in with the footprint changing shape a little bit, do we stick with our north-south format for the Empire and the Continental divisions, or is it more beneficial to move to an east-west alignment? For example, if you have an east-west alignment, in the east, you would have Binghamton, Danbury, Watertown, Athens, Columbus, Twin City, Blue Ridge, and PD. All right, that would be the eastern half of the footprint. In the west, you would have Topeka, Indiana, Monroe, possibly Motor City, Mississippi, Port Huron, Minneapolis, not Minneapolis, Minnesota, excuse me. Thief River Falls, Minnesota, and maybe Baton Rouge. All right. And again, because there's maybes in there, that also affects whether we would switch alignments. All right. That is something that will be discussed once we get to the summer meetings, which take place in June. They get everything set up. They talk about the schedule. They talk about some things that they'd like to work on to see growth in. They like to talk about where we've had success. What do we need to continue? What do we need to continue to build up? They talk about teams statuses. Okay, these guys in or out. They talk about travel. And they talk about all sorts of things. That happens in June. So by that point, we're going to have a lot of answers that we don't have right now at the end of March, early April. But this is where we are at now with the state of the league. Yes, there's a lot of unanswered questions. That's part of what needs to be dug into and examined over these next few months. And they will be handled one way or the other. And again, by June, I would say by the first weekend in June, we will have a clear and distinct picture as far as what the league is going to look like in the 27-28 season. Right now, there is a little bit of speculation in play. Yes. All right. And I hope I have communicated adequately what is absolute established. Yes, this is the way it is. And where there are areas of here's what could be or could not be. We're going to have to wait and see. All right. So hopefully that clears up the picture a little bit. Now, next week on Flash Chat, we are going to talk about, I'm going to bring several areas in which I'd like to see things improved, things changed. And really, there's nothing drastic. Well, maybe one thing. But that is going to be our topic for next week is tweaks. I won't say fix the Fed. That even though that's catchy and it draws your attention, it's really not it. It's more of tweaking the league to make it better. Some ideas that I have and some things that have been discussed, not to any great degree, but things that have been tossed around in board of governors meetings. So it's not just all my suggestions. All right. So that is our topic for next week. All right. Why don't we go on to something a little bit more concrete, a little bit more settled, shall we say? So here we go with our predictions in a new format. It's being done in a different way. Our predictions, or not predictions, but our previews of the upcoming games this week. Take note of what you got, and then we're going to follow that talking about the matchup of the week. So this is the big matchup of the week, and so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about this matchup. All right, because I think it has the greatest playoff implications. Everything else in the league is either already taken care of as far as the playoffs, or it's kind of taking care of itself. But this is the big matchup, head-to-head, PD Ice Cats and the Twin City Thunderbirds, both fighting for that final playoff spot. There's only one spot left in the Continental Division, and so yeah, this is really where it all comes down to. Now, it is conceivable we could get through this weekend and things still aren't decided, but they could end up being decided, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. All right, first of all, the game time's Friday in Twin City. That's a 7:35 start. And then on Saturday, they change venues, go down to Florence, and play at 7:15. Now, for those of you who aren't from the East Coast area there, this isn't a terribly difficult travel. It's 3 hours apart. So it's really not bad. A head-to-head or home and home really isn't that difficult right now at this stage of things. Now, they play each other this weekend, Friday and Saturday, and then after that, PD has 2 games remaining, both in Columbus, to take on the River Dragons, and the Thunderbirds will take on their arch rivals, the Blue Ridge Bobcats, in an intra-divisional match. Now, that will be a home and home as well. Those 2 teams are only 90 miles apart, so again, not a big deal. Okay, so we go into this matchup, and as you can see, the Ice Cats have a little bit of an edge. It's down 6 points, though. It's 75 points for the Ice Cats, and the Thunderbirds have 69. And the Thunderbirds, have their backs against the walls. It's been do or die for a little bit, and they had the unenviable task of taking on Athens this last week, and they fared pretty well. They played decently. Friday didn't go great, but Saturday they ended up pulling out a win, and that was very important because the Ice Cats were not able to win either of their 2 matchups this last weekend. So that narrowed the gap a little bit, 6 points. All right, obviously, as you know, 3 points for regulation win means this is a 6-point weekend. And because the teams are playing head-to-head, it really kind of mathematically means that it's potential for a 12-point swing. So let's just go through a couple scenarios here. If the Thunderbirds swept both games, well, then obviously they would be tied going into the final week of the season. If the Ice Cats sweep, well, it's over. The Ice Cats then clinch the playoff spot. Thunderbirds wouldn't be able to catch them. As a matter of fact, if the Ice Cats get 4 of the possible 6 points, so for an example, they win 1 in regulation and then they lose in overtime, well, there's your 4 points. It's already said and done, and they would clinch. Now, head-to-head, this is the other interesting thing. The Thunderbirds have played very well against PD, winning 7 of the previous 11 meetings. Now, the score is pretty even as far as head-to-head again. The Ice Cats have scored 37 goals. The Thunderbirds have scored 38. But, they've managed to pull out 3 more wins. As we look at the tail of the tape, so to speak, PD's offense is a little bit more potent. They're averaging 3.7 goals scored per game as opposed to 3.4 for the Thunderbirds. This is the goal differential. Right now, PD is in the positive while the Thunderbirds are in the negative. Power play numbers, pretty equal, 20.9% compared to 20.2%. A little bit of a different story with the penalty kill. 78.8% against 72.7%. So, yeah, the penalty kill has been a problem for the Thunderbirds all season. But right now, as we kind of look at things and say, okay, what's the difference here after this weekend? Well, time is really the enemy for the Thunderbirds, more so than their opponents. They've been playing pretty well lately, so it's not out of the question that they could win out. It wouldn't be easy, but they could, and they'd be able to make some noise that way. But there's only 4 games left, so we're really, again, every game is a must-win for the Thunderbirds. We really don't have that pressure in PD, although there is the pressure, especially from fans and whatnot, to get this wrapped up and get ready for the playoffs. Presumably, whoever ends up in this 4th playoff spot between these 2 teams, presumably they'd be facing Athens. That's not set in stone yet, but it'll be either Athens or Monroe. That is definite. Now, a couple of worthy names to mention. Alexander Ladkov. I'm just going to say it right now. He is definitely my choice for Rookie of the Year. I don't know if the league shares that same sentiment, but Ladkov has 89 points, and he's played a couple extra games. He's played 54 games already because he was with the Danbury Hat-Tricks and then got traded down. So he could conceivably play 58 games in the regular season this year. And it's a stretch, but 100 points is not out of the question for Ladkov. Now, for the Thunderbirds, their leading scorer is Zach White, 62 points. Trying to see around the corner here. 62 points. He's played 47 games this year. He had some injury issues for a short time, so he did miss a few games, but playing very well. And he's a very speedy guy. Now, in goal, the 2 leading netminders is for the PD. It's Parker Rutherford. He's 8-1. That's a 3.78 goals against average and an 896 save percentage. You compare that to Boris Babic, who has been really, really good this year in spite of the struggles of the team overall. 19-22-1. That's a lot of games he has a decision in. 3.54 goals against, a 905 save percentage. Both of these goalies have 1 shutout on the year. So I would assume probably on Friday, these are the goaltenders you're going to see. But yeah, this is going to be quite the matchup. Really looking forward to it. Again, 7:35 on Friday, 7:15 on Saturday. And that is the matchup of the week.
You've got mail.
When you control the mail, you control information.
All right, so it's been a couple weeks since we've done a mailbag segment, so I want to do that. Do have a lot of people that have asked the same questions, so not as many questions, but a lot of people are wondering the same things. So I thought, well, let's address that. A couple of things before we get started. These are old highlights from the 2013 season. Um, the Fed looked a lot different back then. This is the old Dayton Demons. Before we get started, I want to say thank you so much to Wes. I came home from from work yesterday, and this was waiting for me. I did not expect that. Thank you so much. This is awesome. So anyway, deeply appreciate it, and it's great. Got most of the signatures from the team here. There's a few that are missing because they were either in the ECHL or something. But anyway, okay. A couple questions that came through from two different people. That was just individual questions. So let's go with that first. JM asked, are there any official plans for Indiana to build an arena? And if so, what is the estimated time for completion? I can't give you hard, detailed answers right now. I can tell you in the conversations that I've had with members of the organization that yes, there is a plot of land that is set aside um, for the purpose of building an arena. When the team was announced back last May, it was stipulated that within 3 years they have a a new arena, one that would replace the Ham, built. And this arena that was proposed would seat about 2,500, a lot bigger than what you got right now, where you're shoulder to shoulder and it's 1,000 people. So something that the league wanted to see happen. And now, again, the land is set aside. There have been some preliminary studies done as far as getting everything set up. Are actual blueprints drawn up? No, not yet. So construction hasn't happened yet. But with time to completion, if they're going to have an arena set for the whether it be the 2028 season. Yeah, I had to think there for a second. They would basically have to break ground no later than not this spring, but next spring, to really get this done. So there's a lot to be done in order to get to the point where ground is being broken. Obviously, you need to have blueprints drawn up. You need to get contractors. You need to get your permits in order. You need to file the paperwork with the state, in this case being Indiana. A lot of things that have to happen behind the scenes. How many steps have or have not been taken, I can't tell you that. I don't have that information. It's just the plans are there. Owner Ryan Furr talked this last weekend at the game that was played up in Minnesota on the air. He was talking with Andy Petzinger on the broadcast, and he talked about looking forward to getting an arena built, kind of looking around the arena they were playing in last week, the Ralph Engelstad Arena, and getting some ideas as far as how they might want to set things up. So, yeah, I don't have definite answers. Just hopefully things are on their way. One other person asked me, JJ sent me a question, and I didn't even think about this. In lieu of the fact that the playoffs are 2 weeks away, and there is a possibility of the first round matchup being between the Port Huron Prowlers and the Blue Ridge Bobcats. The question was, any word if Blue Ridge forward Philippe Levac is still barred or banned from playing in Port Huron. Not recapping the whole incident, but early this season, shot a puck into the crowd and allegedly hit someone, not allegedly, hit someone, is alleged, maybe, was intentional. But anyway, the city of Port Huron, not the arena or Port Huron, the team, but the city actually said, we're barring Levac from playing in Port Huron. Now, the fact that this came from the city and that there was no real immediate action taken as a result of, after that was said, there wasn't anything that the league said or did that said, well, we're going to fight this, leads me to believe and assume that, Levac would not be able to travel to Port Huron to play if that's the matchup that we have, Blue Ridge versus Port Huron. There's still a long way to go. We don't know if that's going to be the case, but right now, my assumption is, he wouldn't be able to play. All right. A couple more firm questions that I have firm answers to. A lot of people asked me, so when is the name of the new Mid-South team going to be announced? Okay. Obviously, you remember last week on Facebook, I put just a fun post on there, and it wasn't me soliciting ideas. It was just, hey, let's have some fun with this. Let's enjoy. Give me your ideas on a team name, and if you want to draw up an AI graphic, which I did too, let's see what you got. Little logos, and a lot of different things came in. As far as the actual contest, well, of course, you have to go to the Mid-South. Was it midsouthprohockey.com? Go to their website. There is a link there in which you can submit your suggestion. I believe that it's going to be within the next few days that they're going to wrap up that process, where they're going to take in all the names and talk about it and decide, okay, what name do we want to go with? And then, of course, they would announce the name. I'm assuming they're going to do what the Minnesota Northern Lights did. They put something out, name the team contest, and they presented the name, and then a while later they introduced all the logos and the graphics and everything, and the team's visual concept. I think that that's probably what's going to happen with Mid-South as well, where, probably by late April, I would think we would probably have a name announced. And then sometime, maybe even, shortly after the playoffs, we might say, okay, we have our name. Now here's our logo. Here's our color scheme. Here's what our uniforms are going to look like. So, definitely, if you want to submit a vote and you haven't done so already, do so within the next couple of days. I want to say Monday or Tuesday of next week was going to be when they were going to wrap things up as far as taking submissions. So do that quick. Okay, the other thing that I had asked by a lot of people is, can you review the playoff format along with the dates? Well, I can give you a general idea as far as dates. Okay, we have 3 rounds of playoffs, 8 teams, 4 in the Empire Division, 4 in the Continental. Teams 1 and 4 play each other. Teams 2 and 3 play each other. Like how I did that? It's kind of a Spock thing. But anyway, same thing in the Empire. 1 and 4, and then 2 and 3 play each other. The winners meet for the second round. They play each other for the division championship, and then we go to the finals. Now, round 1, I'm looking over my shoulder here at my calendar. Round 1 will be, it could start as early as the 15th of April, depending on the teams and the locations. For example, if the playoffs were to end or start right now, Binghamton would play Topeka. Okay, that's a long distance. So probably what would happen would be we would have a game in Topeka. Well, we'd have the first game in Topeka, but that would probably be Wednesday. Could be Wednesday, could be Thursday. Dates have not been determined yet, but it will be the 15th or the 16th. Then the two remaining games would be in Binghamton. Again, that's just using that example. I don't think there's a real need for more than one travel day for anybody else besides Topeka. Obviously, they're kind of out there on an island geographically right now. That's where Mid-South comes in, helps that out. But anyway, so it'll be any time around the 15th or 16th that the playoffs will start. The first round would end by Sunday the 19th. Then we go to the second round. And that would be, again, depending on who advances and who goes forward. It could be as early as the 22nd of April, which would be Wednesday. If we need travel days, we'll do that. Now, some matchups, they're a little closer. For example, just using this as an example, if in the second round, Athens and Columbus met, well, there's only 4 hours in between. You don't need a travel day. So that would be a Friday, Saturday, and if necessary, Sunday series, which will be the 24th, 25th, and 26th. Okay, second round wraps up by the 26th. That gets us to the finals. Okay, the finals is a best of 5 series. So we would have games 1 and 2 at the lower seed, with the remaining 2 teams that are left. The lower seed would host the first 2 games. That would be on May 1st and May 2nd, Friday and Saturday. Then the following weekend, the higher seed would host game 3 and, if necessary, 4 and 5, which would be May 8th, 9th, and 10th. So absolutely positively, May 10th would be the end of the season, the end of the playoffs. That would be if the series goes to 5 games. All right. So again, first 2 rounds, best of 3 series, finals, best of 5. And yeah, it'd be nice if they could expand that, but with travel and all that, it's kind of understood why the setup is the way it is right now. So there we go. A lot of people ask me that. If you have any other questions, please feel free to either DM me or, I'll move over a little so I can get my graphic up here. You can email me at fedflash15@gmail.com. So you can send your questions to me there. And even if I don't answer them here on Mailbag, I will respond to your questions. So I do appreciate everything that you send in. We're running a little long on time, so let's get right into news and notes. All right, we're going to get right to the point here, right down to business, because I do have one topic that's more notes than news, but I think we need to talk about it. All right, first of all, let's get into some more direct fact stuff here. Okay, so we had an injury to Garrett Milan this last Sunday. He is on IR, the 15-day IR. I don't know the severity of his injury, but obviously it's enough where he's on IR. Athens not being shorthanded, though, they have signed as a player Brandon Picard. Brandon has been serving this year as the assistant coach to Garrett Rutledge. So, when you're helping direct practices and whatnot, you're out there skating with the players. So it's not like Picard's out of shape or anything like that. He's able to jump back in, and that's a good thing that Athens has that that safety net, so to speak. So they will not be shorthanded the remainder of the year. All right. After let's see, let's go back to that first. Okay. Of course, we did have suspensions that were announced this last week to Monroe as a team and to J. Krupp specifically. everyone was wondering what was that for, that was directly related to the incident that took place Saturday in Columbus. It had nothing to do with the Athens game. All right, so yeah, that was from the Saturday game against Columbus, and that's what the fine and suspension is for. Also, the suspension to Garrett Johnson, the occasional goaltender of the Biloxi Breakers. The only people that are going to respond to what I have to say right now are people who I'm sorry, I just don't think you have a grasp on reality. The players suit up and play the game of hockey to play the game of hockey, not to go off in some prefabricated melee. All right. So Garrett Johnson gets suspended for leaving the crease, darting over to Ed Coffey, and actually believing that Ed Coffey was going to fight him. There's just no reality here. That's not what hockey is about. Okay, the fights can be entertaining, yes, but when that becomes your end all and be all for trying to draw fans, I'm sorry, no, absolutely not. So the suspension to Garrett Johnson, well justified, even though he didn't do any harm to Coffey. He's pushing him around, and that was it. Coffey looked like serious. um, and it's really unfortunate. Those are the kind of instances, excuse me, that occasionally make the Fed look bad. And now this type of thing has happened in other leagues. It's not just a Fed thing. But I'm sorry. If you disagree with me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you disagree with me. All right. The sport of hockey is about hockey. Okay. On to something else. Okay, after this last Tuesday's meeting between Athens and Monroe, which actually, as I'm recording this right now, the game is going on. I just didn't have the ability to get everything recorded and packaged before now. So that's why I did not include that game in statistics or in the standings, and I made a note as of Monday. Here are the magic numbers. I just don't have the ability to record everything on Tuesday and get everything done. So I have to pre-record segments. So Tuesday, obviously, that kind of played havoc with this episode a little bit. Fortunately, there's only 2 more games that are going to be played on weekdays. And those games are on Thursday, April 9th. Indiana versus Topeka, Biloxi versus the Baton Rouge. Okay. And that's because the season needs to end on Saturday the 11th, because playoffs could start as early as Wednesday, April 15th. In the first round, obviously, Topeka, if they make it in, and it looks like as of right now they're going to, they only need 3 more points, either gained by them or lost by Danbury. They would be in the playoffs, and that requires a lot of travel. Now, both Binghamton and Topeka have said, kind of in an unofficial capacity, that if they ended up playing each other, they would fly. Both of them have said, yeah, we're flying. We're not busing. It's a 19-hour bus ride. But it still requires playing, getting cleaned up. You go to the hotel, you sleep, you get up early in the morning, head to the airport, fly. So, there is the need for a gap in between. So whether it's Topeka playing Binghamton or Topeka playing Port Huron, that also is 13 and a half hours by bus, you're going to need travel time in between. So it's not going to be a series where it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It'll be more like Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. All right. So we'll have a game either on Wednesday the 15th or Thursday the 16th. I don't know if there's really travel that's going to be required in the Continental Division. Presumably, Athens is going to be playing either PD or Twin City, and that's a 4 or 4.5 hour bus ride. No big deal there. Even Monroe and Columbus, 7.5 hours. So, well, maybe there will be a travel day put in. That depends on each team and the ownership of those teams, whether they insist on a travel day or whether they just play 2 or 3 games in 3 nights. That's up to them to decide. But typically, we do not have travel days unless there's a considerable distance in between or there is an arena availability issue. For example, a couple of years ago, Columbus and Mississippi met in the playoffs, and there was a Wednesday and a Friday game because Mississippi did not have arena availability on the Friday to make it a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series, so they made it a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday series. All right, so typically, though, the best of 3 series in the playoffs are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, so that's leading in the playoffs, and yeah, it's just around the corner. We've got this weekend coming up, and then one more weekend, and then we're in the playoffs. All right, the last thing I want to touch on, and this is going to be an op-ed piece, and I know there's probably still going to be a lot of discussion on this, but I wanted to address this because what we saw Sunday was actually very rare in one specific way. Okay, and I want to talk about this. Very, very rarely. We all complain about the officials. They missed this call, they missed that call, this got botched. But very seldom does an official's call really impact the outcome of the game. All right, there was an example a couple of seasons ago where Watertown played Binghamton, and Binghamton was awarded a goal that Watertown goalie Spencer Kozlowski stopped a good 1.5 feet in front of the goal line, and somehow it was ruled a goal. Okay, that game was decided by the refs. Okay, typically speaking, a missed call or an incorrect call typically does not directly impact the outcome of a game. However, what we saw on a Sunday definitely did, because there were 2 botched calls. All right, first of all, there was a disallowed goal at about 17 minutes, so it was 16:41, I believe, of the third period. Philippe Virgili scored, but it was ruled that the puck was offside. Okay, and the puck coming in across, the puck came across the ice from one side to the other. It was airborne. The puck preceded Philippe Virgili into the zone. Therefore, he was not offside. The other 2 Athens players who were right near the blue line, both of them had 1 foot outside of, out into the neutral zone. Hence, both of those players were onside. It was a botched call, and the problem is not necessarily the botched call. The problem is that it was reviewed, and even after a lengthy review, the officials made the determination, oh yeah, it was offside. No, I'm sorry, it was not. And this is not me speaking out of opinion. According to the rules and guidelines of the game of hockey, that was onside. That should have been a good goal. Now, if it had been, Athens would have been up 3-1 with 3:20 left to play. All right. I don't think we would have even gotten to overtime. All right. So, first of all, the game's kind of decided there in a way. But Then we had the game-winning goal, which was not, it should not have been a goal. Referee, where did I write his name? Greenberg. He blew the call. Blew it, literally. Okay. The play was on this side of the ice. Okay. You can imagine, I'll try and find the graphic of a hockey, like a floor plan of a hockey rink here, which you can't see if I'm doing this because the graphics in the way. All right, so maybe okay, so let's pretend this is a hockey rink, all right? We're just having blank for now. All right, the goal, this is the goal. Let's say this is the goal. Okay, the play came around over here. Dustin Perla skated behind the goal, tried to wrap around the temp. It was blocked by Masternak. The puck came out here, and from there, it was stuffed home. But as this is happening, as this play is happening, Greenberg is over here. He blew the whistle, skated up, and immediately said, no, no goal, no goal, no goal. Then there's a lengthy review, and it's ruled that it's a goal. How can the lead referee, who himself blew the play dead, presumably because he lost sight of the puck, he's over here, and the puck is over here with a mass of bodies in front, I would assume he lost sight of the puck. Okay, that's why he blew the play dead, which is not a problem. The rules state if an official loses sight of the puck, they blow the play dead. All right, which he did. But then to turn it around and to award the goal, all right, it didn't make any sense. It was just a botched call. Now, the people who are complaining the most, and this is the ironic part, are the Monroe fans. Monroe, you were just gifted a point. You were gifted a point. You actually made out better because the offside call got botched. If that had been allowed to stand, which it should have been, it would have been 3-1 with 3 minutes left to play. You're probably not coming back and tying that game up. All right. You got in overtime because there was only one goal that you needed to make up, which you got with 8 seconds left. Okay. And so sent the game in overtime. And then, yes, you lost that second point, but you gained a point. Essentially, if the offside call had been correctly made, or the onside call, excuse me, you would have gotten no points. So you actually ended up making up better. So it's kind of humorous to me, and I'm not saying this disrespectfully. I'm trying to explain this. It just is. It's kind of funny to me that you're the ones complaining about the outcome of the game when you were gifted a point. Okay, you're 1 point closer to Athens than you would have been had everything been called correctly. So Athens, you're the ones that got cheated. And that's the unfortunate thing. I'm hoping that the league takes a good, long, serious look at this game, because this unfortunately was a game that was decided by the officials. Very unfortunate. It does happen rarely, but it does sometimes happen. I know a lot of people, they shot me messages, as this game is going on. So, what do you think now? Referees don't determine the game. Well, very, very rarely. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, because I think it's important to recognize that, again, this game is a very, very fast game. We have the benefit of watching on YouTube, or we're at the game. We see things from a distance. The farther away you get from the ice surface, the slower the game, as far as perception, becomes. You're able to pick up more things. You're able to see more things. The referees are right down there, right on ice level. So things happen much faster down there than it does for people like you and I who are up in the stands. and taking in everything. All right. So before we all, burn, little statues or, little rag dolls of the referees in effigy, I think it's important to realize they do the best they can. It's a very fast game. Yes, these referees are also learning. They are building their careers. All right, most of them are. There are a few who've been around forever. But most of these officials in this league have only been at this level for a year, 2 years, maybe, and they're trying to get better too. They're trying to move up to the ECHL and the AHL and the NHL. They're going to make mistakes. All right, this is where the board of supervisors comes into play that I talked about with Dave Jackson several weeks ago on this show, and why it's so important that is put into place, that these referees do get feedback, they get coaching. If they mess up, they're taken through everything and say, okay, this is where you messed up. This is why. This is what you need to improve in. Simple enough. All right. We're all human. We all make mistakes, and in the long run, at the end of the day, this is just a game. Yes, everyone's trying to win. They're trying to be competitive. They're trying to do their best. They're trying to end up on top, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. And, if it doesn't, that's okay. Life goes on. The sun's going to come up tomorrow morning, whether the Podunkville Skunks won or not. So, let's remember that. This is a game. It's supposed to be fun. Not just for the players, but for us fans too. All right. I've rambled on long enough, and we're wrapping up the show. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, for watching today. Always remember that there's the segments down below. You click on the more, you can go right to whatever segment, go on to that section. So please avail yourself to that. If you don't have an hour, 10 minutes or an hour, 20 minutes to watch a video, I understand that. That's fine. Just watch part of it. I appreciate you following and watching. Also, remember, you can get in touch with me by going to Fed Flash 15. I can't even remember my own email. fedflash15@gmail.com. You can send me a question or comment there, or you can DM me on the Facebook page, Fed League Flash. Make sure you're following me on Facebook, because when news happens, I print it there first. We expound upon it a little bit more here on YouTube, but the Facebook page is where everything is happening as quickly as we can keep up with it. All right. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for your support and for watching, for all your encouraging feedback that you gave me. I appreciate that. And I hope very much that I will see you again next week for the next Fed Flash Face-Off. And of course, don't forget, Saturday and Sunday, we will have game recaps as well. All right. I'm going to close this out. I'm Gary Ryan for the Fed League Flash. Until next week, keep your stick on the ice, keep your head up, and most of all, and most importantly, be excellent to each other and to yourself as well. I'm Gary Ryan. See you next time.